the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is EDtech, episode number 4, recorded Monday, April 16th, 2012. Freakin Laserbeams. It is time once again for EDtech, the education-based show from the guys that give you AVNation. My name is Tim Albright, your host. With us, as always, is Matthew Silverman. He is the project manager, learning space design for George Mason University. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Tim.
Also with us is Greg Brown. He is the media systems engineer for classroom technology design and maintenance at UCLA.
Hey, you got it right. Thank you very much, Tim. Yeah, like I said, I wish I got paid by the word.
I wish you
did.
Hey, Tim.
Too. Hi, Matt.
Good Lord.
Hey, Greg.
Yeah, that's a long title. This month we're going to talk about schools going all iPad because that sounds like a really cool idea. OEM speakers, the most popular resolution of all time, or at least the most popular resolution currently as of last month. And red laser projectors, because I like lasers. So, but first, Epson came out with something last week that kind of piqued my interest and said, hey, this is kind of cool. Like you guys, I do a lot of stuff with projectors, and that's kind of what's in our classroom. They released a $599 list price projector. Now, that's nothing new because they've had those for a while. But this one's at 3,000 lumens. And, guys, it's 1024 by 768. Matt, is this kind of a game changer when it comes to projectors? And, they're getting to the point where they're the cost of flat panels now. Is this a game changer from Epson for guys like us? Or is this just, as time goes on, they're going to get less and less expensive, and the lumens are going to keep going up and up?
I think this one is so close. If you look at what it gives you, it actually has an HDMI port on it, VGA, it has control, which Epson generally hasn't done on their lower-end projectors. So it's really cool. Price point, it's almost the cost of what a lamp used to be. So, it's getting to like inkjet printers. You run out of ink, the lamp goes, buy another one. Yeah. The only thing which I think they missed on this one is the resolution. And how do you put an HDMI port on there and keep it 4:3 is what I'd like to know.
Well, yeah.
And if this had been, even if they had lost 500 lumens and put the bigger, put the 1610 or 16:9 aspect ratio on it, I think this would have been like killer. But right. if you're K-12 right now, you gotta be happy as anything. And I'm not even sure, this may be their list price. I wonder what their brighter futures is, because it'd probably even be a little bit lower than that. So it's definitely a great projector at that price point. It's almost something, hey, everyone gets one at home as well.
Buy one, get one free type, almost. Greg, Matt makes a good point. The fact that it's not widescreen. It will do it, I'm sure, because it's got the HDMI. But is it going to be is it really great, or is it missing that one thing?
I think I'm going to launch my campaign again for a line of AV industry public service announcements along the lines of friends don't let friends install XGA projectors.
Oh.
Why? I really would like to know who is still installing XGA projectors and why. If one of our what are we up to now? 7 listeners. Please let us know. I would love to know who and why you would still be doing this at this point. there's got to be some extenuating circumstances going on there to still be doing that in some sort of, vaguely responsible fashion. I mean, it's 2012, folks. I mean, the analog sun has largely set, and this is coming from somebody who has far more VCRs and slide projectors that he really would care to admit to in public, So I don't understand what their fixation is, but I guess people are still buying them if they're still selling them. They probably have, I'm sure they have all of their costs amortized at this point. The two things that sort of I did wonder a bit about it are, it's 3,000 lumens in its 3,000 lumens in its 4,000 hour normal mode. Didn't say what its brightness was in its 5,000 hour eco mode. I've seen a couple projectors like that. I've got a couple projectors like that, and the eco mode can be a lot less light in some circumstances, or in that circumstance. And the other thing that I just noticed Epson started doing here is they've moved away from ANSI lumens. Just as we got everybody in the video projector world using ANSI lumens, they've now switched over to this ISO 21118, which they call a more rigid standard than the outdated ANSI lumens rating used by competitive products. Well, the only problem is they're the only ones using it.
Well, yeah.
Actually, I can answer that question.
Please, enlighten me.
The ANSI lumen standard, I believe, has expired. So it's no longer a current ANSI standard. And ISO, being an international standard, is a worldwide consensus. So it's at a higher level.
Are the numbers equal?
I don't know from a technical level. That's not a yes, no, or otherwise. I just don't know. But I'm pretty sure, from what I understand, because I was talking with another projector manufacturer about the ANSI measurement standard, that I believe has expired and was not renewed as an ANSI standard. So what I will say, the fact that they are actually using a standard of measurement, they should be applauded for. Because a lot of people, actually, I'd say not necessarily on projectors, but more on the some of the display manufacturers. They create their own metric to figure out what their contrast ratio is or things like that.
Oh, yeah. And I think we've all bought plenty of projectors where clearly the ANSI lumens at the factory and the ANSI lumens in our shops are, using a different standard. But
by about a factor of a half, yeah.
Oh, you've noticed that too. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a nice projector. It's cheap. I have an issue with the resolution, but it has, some nice features and nice keystone adjustment. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more clear information there on the brightness. I Googled it for an hour or so last night, and I really was not finding a lot of conclusive information that told me about the differences.
Well, let me ask you guys that about the actual ANSI lumen thing, or lumens in general. I saw a demo for an LED projector. It was a Pico projector, granted, made by Vizx, but they're touting a 300 lumens projector, and to me, it looked brighter than 300 lumens. To me, it looked about 1,000 lumens. Is the whole lumens thing? Do we need to do something different? Is ISO that standard? Is that where we should be going?
I think we need a better education, and I'm from the industry, and I haven't looked in this for a while. I mean, what we've used is we've actually shot projectors off head to head in our real world lab, i.e. a classroom. So at the end of the day, we've made a lot of our decisions where we have A next to B, and in a comparable environment, and we'll just say, B looks better. Yeah. But it's my understanding that this ISO standard is actually meant to be a way of comparing lumens on data sheets. Now, the question is, I don't know enough about it. I don't know if it's even a valid methodology of measuring light output compared to the old ANSI standard. But it was one of these transitions which I think I only heard about because one of my projector reps said, hey, by the way, we're using this now, and they're not, sort of to, I think, that caveat, Greg, you noticed on the on the sales sheet.
Yeah, and if you're going to charge off and do something different like this, put something on your website that explains it a little bit, maybe. And anybody out there, if you're buying projectors, heck, get yourself a light meter. They're cheap. Learn how to do a. Mm-hmm. Well, the ANSI lumens is a pretty easy measurement to do. I don't know about. I assume this other one's probably not too terribly different, but learn how to take a measurement. Go out there and measure your projectors. Not on a dark, depressing day when you're not looking for additional bad news, but it's pretty enlightening. No pun intended.
Oh, very nice.
Or not, actually, as the case may be, to discover how much light or how much less light than the spec sheets your projectors are typically putting out. What's the saying? Figures don't lie, but liars sure can write spec sheets.
yes, they can. Well, and that actually leads us into our next story, and from one end to the other end. And if you don't know what RED is and what the whole RED phenomenon for shooting video is, it's 4K. It's the ability to shoot with this great looking camera. Well, now they're coming out with the Red Ray projector, and it's laser. Because I love frickin' lasers. They have laser beams, the whole Austin Powers thing. They have frickin' laser beams on their heads, and they're actually doing a demonstration at NAB this week. They're touting some of the 3D things, and I couldn't care less about 3D, to be frank about it. But it's 25,000 hours. On the laser. It's under 10 grand, so it's not like a $250,000 Barco. But are we ready for laser? Are we ready for LED? Are we still happy with our bulbs, our lamps? Greg, you still happy? Are you ready to go laser or even LED?
Well, when I first saw this, I was initially worried that we were going to talk about either the 3D or the 4K aspect of this, and in which case I was just going to sort of, I guess, let you wake me when you were done with your conversation. I remain unconvinced. I mean, I think they are new and exciting technologies that we are moving towards, but the lamps are kind of working out for us right now. With a lot of these newer projectors, they're 4,000 hours a lot of times replacement cycle. So you're going to replace the lamp once?
Well, I don't want to interrupt projector? I don't want to interrupt you, but some of the Mitsubishis are 5,000 hours.
Yeah. I was being a little conservative there. 4,000 or 5,000 hours. So I mean, seriously, how many of us are putting more than 10,000 hours on a video projector over the course of its lifetime? I'm seeing numbers 2/3 of that at best, after 5, 6, 7 years. So, a neat technology, certainly something that I'd like to check out, but, I'm not waiting in any sort of line to buy it yet.
Matt, are you ready to install lasers?
Not today, but I love RED as a disruptive technology, and when they first came out with some of their camera products, I haven't bought any. I'm not sure if the university has bought any, but it's always amazed me how they think outside the box. And it kind of jives with something I heard a couple of years back from a projector manufacturer, that lasers were going to be the next big thing. Now, I kind of figured that was kind of like saying, if you're going to invest in something, invest in plastics. But
wow,
it's definitely one of the potential technologies for the next step in projectors, and it's always cool to see someone go out on a limb and make it work. I'm with Greg. I think we can skip this month's mandatory 3D bash. But
yeah, and I didn't want to bash 3D. I just wanted to talk about the technology of the the thing. Yeah, I couldn't care less about it, but go ahead.
But no, I think I think it's interesting. My bet, like every other Red product, this will ship in about 5 years, since they seem worse than any other. You know, they're kind of we ship it when it's done, which may be years down the road. But it's cool. It's disruptive. I think it'll start some of the higher end projector folks who have had R&D into this talking about it possibly at Infocom, because they're just going to have to respond to it. And that's what I think is really neat about this announcement.
Sorry, Tim, you are the only laser fanboy on the panel today.
I like frickin' Laserbeams.
Oh,
I just like saying
I like
lasers.
I do. I like them. It just in a couple of years.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if I mentioned to some of the people around here that our projectors have lasers in them, whether like somebody's going to worry about like safety goggles or things catching on fire or something like that.
There will be a meeting required, Greg. Several of them.
There's always a meeting required.
Yeah. All right. Well, since we mentioned the fact that NAB is this week, let's talk about NAB, shall we? I am not a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist. Let me start there. I do like a good conspiracy, and I do like a good mystery, and I think I have one. I'm just going to say that something doesn't add up here. A couple weeks ago, Extron, the wonderful manufacturer of switchers and other products, announced that they will not be going to Infocom or ISC for the foreseeable future, because they're going to focus on training at their training centers and their local places, and I think that's great, and I think that's awesome. And I don't know that specifically they spelled out the fact that they weren't going to any trade shows, but they're not going to the industry standard of the industry in which they're in. So imagine my surprise when I saw that Extron will be going to NAB this week, a couple weeks after they pulled out of Infocom. I'm just going to ask this, and you guys can tell me I'm crazy.
Spit it out.
Greg, do you think something weird's going on here, like they got their fingers hurt or they got their feelings hurt or somebody got ticked off somewhere? Or is this, Extron's going after another industry? I mean, what the heck is going on?
As far as NAB, I think that doesn't really surprise me. I mean, it's a much bigger show than either Infocom or the one in Europe that the name is just escaping me.
ISE.
Right. Thank you.
Integrated Systems Europe.
Exactly, ISE. NAB is huge. It's many times the size of either of those shows, and that market is a huge market. It's much bigger than our little AV corner of the world, and so I think it's an area where they can't come in and say, "Hey, this is how we're going to market to you, and you're going to like it," which is sort of how I feel they're treating the AV world. They've decided they can do things better, and so they are. But I don't think that would play to what customers they have out there in the NAB world.
All right, Matt.
I'm avoiding the conspiracy theory.
All right, no, that's fine. That's fine. Matt, on the NAB show website, it says that Extron is going to be displaying display systems, distribution and delivery over fiber and streaming and webcasting, and management systems, signal management and processing. Okay, that makes sense for NAB, which stands for National Association of Broadcasters. But doesn't that also make sense for Infocom?
It does. I agree with you on their announcement. I mean, I don't think they explicitly said they were pulling out of national shows or international shows. I think they said we are not attending these two shows specifically. Yeah. I know, talking to our broadcast engineer here, he's a big fan of Extron products and won't actually let me talk them out of them when I'm looking at comparable products from other AV vendors. So I think they have a large following of being kind of a glue product to some of the broadcast folks who need to bring in, computing or things into their environment. Also they've gone big time into their encoding solutions, which are, becoming quite big in campus solutions, not just higher education, but corporate campuses for distributing content. So I definitely think there's a market for them. I guess they're not a major player. I mean, at Infocom, they were, a top 5 player.
They were a platinum sponsor.
Yes.
Right. Right.
Here,
biggest booth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here, my guess is they're just another large manufacturer in a booth. And maybe that's the profile they're looking for right now. I don't know. I mean, from some of our conversation over the past couple of shows, they just seem to be in a really confused place right now. Yeah. I mean, I'm confused as a customer.
Yes.
So that's about the best I can say.
They're confused. Well, let's hope that they find themselves shortly. So, Matt said something this week that I thought was interesting, and it's the idea of a unique, or let's say out of the box furniture. And that's the best way I've got to put it. And that sounds kind of silly, talking about AV and stuff. But it's non-traditional workspaces. It's, there's one that we're going to put a couple different links up. One is from Computer Comforts. It's called the Collaborative Table. And I love this line. It says, is it a conference table? Is it a computer workstation? It actually, from the picture, it also technically could probably be a video conferencing table. Because there's a large screen at the end, and you could just slap a camera on top of that. But Matt, you said this non-traditional spaces is something that you guys have been talking about at George Mason. How did that start, and where should people that are going down this road, where should they start their conversation maybe?
Actually, I'll hit on the other company you didn't mention.
I'm sorry,
which is Steelcase and Mediascape, because they're actually more of a furniture manufacturer than they are anyone who's really traditionally been associated with the AV industry. They came out with this fantastic product, and the Collaborative Table Computer Conference is kind of a derivative product, if you will, called Mediascape. And it's been on the market, I think, somewhere between 18 months and 2 years. And it's just phenomenal. It's basically, the idea is you have somewhere between 4 and 8 student stations or user stations at a table. Each station has a hookup for a computer, and you have 1, 2, or more monitors depending on your setup, where you can basically hook up, hit a button, and you're displaying on the monitor. And because you have multiple connections, multiple users can alternate off who's sharing what when. And we saw this at a show somewhere and had been talking about it a little bit. It was kind of funny. Our learning support services group, which is kind of our instructional design, that's not part of my group, but we work very closely with them, approached us about 3 months ago, said, we're really interested. And we said, that's funny. We've actually been talking about this as well. And we ended up talking with Steelcase, and we got a loaner table for them. And it was the most amazing thing. As we were setting it up, before they were actually done, they had forgot a part and had to go back to the truck. Students had already jumped on the table and were trying to use it before it was done being set up.
Wow.
And it just created an environment which really fostered collaboration and kind of got us thinking both outside and inside the classroom, and this idea of informal learning spaces. And so we started talking to a couple of our peers throughout the state, and we found out a lot of people had adopted these and learning commons and library spaces, and it just became a great way to let students basically plug in a computer and share content really quickly. And we're kind of at the point right now where we're trying to take the next step and turn it into an enterprise level product. Because potentially I could see us deploying 50 or 100 of these over our campuses over the next couple of years.
Wow.
It's just gotten that great of feedback. And we're even looking in some degree how could we do this inside a classroom where you would have a pod of students collaborating and then have the teacher have the ability to grab whatever they're working on and send it up to the big screen.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, that's stuff like that is, we talked about being disruptive with the first story, the $600 projector. To me, that's more disruptive in a very good way. And I think it speaks more to how the current student and the students coming up after them, how they learn and how they interact. You talked about how your students just instinctively jumped on there and started using them. I think that's really cool.
It was phenomenal. We did not expect it at all. So we've been talking with everyone about this. Extron's actually making the guts for the computer conference solution. Altinix is making the guts for the Mediascape solution. And the only challenge we found so far is that it's completely an analog solution, which is kind of backwards in where we are today. But we're beating on people to think outside the box on that one.
Yeah, we just had a big renovation up here. In fact, if you go online and you Google Young Research Library renovation, you can see all of the information on it. And it was a big renovation of one of the libraries here on campus. It uses, I believe, steel case equipment for most of them. They're these weird multicolored pod things, and doing the same sort of thing. You sit around and plug in, and it's uses the Extron guts. The neat thing about the Extron guts, it's actually one of the more novel things I've seen them come up with recently, is your VGA connector has a button on it. You press the button on your connector to send your computer up to the monitor. It's actually pretty slick, but it's very basic. These are all just strictly VGA, which, again, I'm not sure that was a lot of forethought went into that. But we have a mixture of these steel case pods, but also these tables here that you're showing in the like the computer comforts. I believe they're steel case equipment, but it's the same sort of idea.
Yeah. No, that is really cool. So, all right, you are listening to EdTech with Mr. Greg Brown from UCLA and Matthew Silverman from George Mason University. My name is Tim. How are you? This comes to us from the gentleman over at StatCounter. For the past couple years, 1024 by 768 has been the number one resolution of all time until last month when it wasn't anymore. Usually web stats are kind of boring, and I've never really paid much attention to them. And actually, Matt sent this one along, and I'm like, holy cow, seriously? What these guys have done is they've taken a look at the resolution of web designers. Like, in other words, so you're looking at a website, whether that's, I don't know, Gawker Media or CNN.com, which, whatever your preference is. And for the past couple of years, it has been 1024/768. And according to their research, as of last month, 1024/768 no longer is number one. Actually, between March of 2009 and March of 2012, 1024/768 fell from 41.8% of the websites out there to 18.6%. Now, what took its place? 1366 by 768. In 2009, it was 0.68% of the websites. Not even a full percent. And last month, it was 19.3%. Actually, 19.28. So, Greg, are we going to have to retool all of our classrooms for this wider screen resolution? Or at least rethink, some of our future installs?
Oh, we haven't gotten EDID figured out on the others anyway, so they don't work. So, we may as well just stick with all the low resolutions for now anyway. It's much simpler.
800 by 600.
I don't know. I think that's interesting. Although if you look at the chart there, there's the line for other, which is actually looks like it's in second place at the very end, at the very most recent date there. So I'm kind of wondering what makes up other and what that's going to look like.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know. I don't put too much into this yet. I think it's just going to be a slow migration up. It's probably something to toss in the face of the 4K fanboys out there that we're starting to hear from.
Matt, are we going to have to rework everything, or is this like Rick said, it just kind of ebbs and flows, and it's just a slow migration?
Well, I think if anyone needed a sign that XGA was dead, this should be it.
It's not dead. It's in second place.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's merely a flesh wound.
Oh, very nice.
And my unfortunate thing is I think I bet on the wrong horse of 1280 by 800, which peaked and then dipped, but it's still going strong.
80 by 800?
Yeah, that's what all my projectors are. That's down to 13% of the market. It was a nice resolution because you could do 16:9 at 720p as well as 1280 by 800 at 16:10.
By 800? Wow.
Yeah.
You just blew Greg's mind.
You did. You did.
Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed that a 16:9 resolution won because that's the video guys winning out over the computing guys.
But doesn't that always happen? I mean, I don't mean to be sour grapes, but that always happens.
Yeah, I'm not too upset with our decision to go with 16 by 10 yet because, usually in the classrooms what dimension do we tend to violate with the screens first? It's how low they hang, and so I'm okay with the screens being a little lower than maybe they could be, and the 16 by 10 little bit more little bit easier on the 4 by 3. And you can do 16 by 9 just as fine.
Yeah.
So most of our screens and projectors, everything of late has been 16 by 10. I don't know whether I should tell you what resolution.
Oh,
what
go ahead.
1912.
For all the midsize and big rooms, everything I've put in recently has been 1920 by 1200.
Yeah, it's a budget issue with us. I'd like to be there as well.
You know what? I'm with Matt. I'm still putting in 1024 768 because mine's a budget issue. So,
oh, here's your sign, Tim.
I have some 8-year-old video projectors too, but they're 1280 by 1024, or 1280 by what was the 1280 by. Well, there was some version of it wasn't.
By 1024. Yeah, that's SXVGA.
SXGA plus.
Oh, okay, that's a wide. Yeah.
No, it was still 4 by 3, but it was just the size that the chip came in back then.
Mm.
Yeah. See, Matt is the smartest guy I know when it comes to resolutions. So as long as I can afford it, I generally follow him. But yeah, some years it's not so pretty. So.
Well, I think we'll be seeing some new stuff this Infocom very affordable in the 1280, 800, or even in this bizarro 1366 by 768 space. I think you'll actually see, if not a sub $1,000 projector, $1,100 education cost projector by the show this summer.
Yeah, that's probably true too. Because it's, every year the prices go down and resolution goes up. So, all right.
Absolutely.
This is from our buddies over at Rave Publications, and I actually was turned on to this by Gary K. Chief came out with they came out with a piece of software a couple years ago called Rack Builder, and you went on their website and you built your rack, and it was they helped you with weight distribution if you didn't know what you're doing with rack weight distribution. Try saying that 5 times fast. And also with heat management and things of that nature. Well, now they have something called Rack Build Delivered. And it's taking this idea and one step further. And what it does is you still build your rack, But now you can have, when you go at the end of it, you can select to have your rack built by them and delivered to you already populated. There's a couple of different drawbacks. One is the fact that they only have 4 partners for this so far. For, I guess, for Matt and I, it's great because Extron's one of them. For Greg, who's an Extron guy, not so much. But we're trying to win him over to the dark side. And but you know what?
We're slowly moving that way.
Well, you're right. You have an experience center near you, so you can go check that out.
Yes, we've been there.
But here's the thing, though, guys. A lot of us do our own racks, and we do it. Why? Matt and I just talked about it. Because of money. All right? There's no way around this. There's no way to sugarcoat this. It's because of money. You know what? We're colleges. We don't have a lot of money. We're not, Apple, who can spend $1 billion on AV equipment. We have to cut corners somewhere, and some of that is, a lot of times is, we will purchase the product ourselves, and then we'll rack it ourselves. And I think it'll take a lot. I think it will save a lot of time. I think it'll save a lot of money from manpower and man hours time. I just wish that they would have a little bit more expanded. Matt, we'll start with you. Is this something that's interesting to you, or is this you only got four partners here, and so it's not that attractive to me?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. One of our challenges right now is all of our racks are integrated into our furniture. So as much as I like the program, I'm not sure today how I really would see value from it. But I think it's great. I mean, it's something we're going to actually look into, probably not right now with the summer, but into future projects, because it's something we've been talking about. We actually talked about talking to our integrator about something similar, where we would have them rack it in their shop, and we would do the final installation, because we're starting to price out our staff time versus what the real dollar value of having someone else do it. So I think it's a very progressive service in an industry which has been very slow to embrace services.
Yeah, but they have to. And that's the thing is,
no, I agree with you.
Their bottom lines are going away. So, go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I think you guys are right on with that, and we build all of our stuff too. In fact, we've never really worked with an integrator. We build all of our stuff in house, and it would be nice if they had more people that they partnered up with this, but I played with it a bit. It's a really neat program. It gives you a nice visual of the rack. It lets you move things around, lets you save spaces for other equipment that you'll be putting in later. So, hats off for the effort that they put into this. It's a really slick little program. Not something I see personally useful to us, but a good effort on their part. I think there will be people who find it useful.
Let me ask you guys a question, because I just thought of this. Is this something that, if you did find it useful, or if you did have one of the 4 partners that they have partnered with, one of them is AMX, one is Extron, one is Savant. Actually, one of them is also Surgex, because in the building part you can put in a Surgex surge projector. If you used one of them, would it make you more apt to buy a Chief rack? Because I'll tell you this, we don't use Chief racks. Most of my racks are Lowell. I'll be very honest about it, because they're in my backyard. I'm in St. Louis, and they're just south of us here. I have used Middle Atlantic before, but that's it's for one reason or another. I'm not even sure why at this point. Most of mine are Lowell. Is this something where you would be more apt to buy a Chief rack?
That's interesting. You should say that, Tim. I have over 100 Lowell racks. Most of my racks are by Lowell. The thing that I didn't remember initially looking at this, but Raxus is now part of the same group as Chief, and they always made a lot of great stuff and have have. I guess I'm not sure whether Raxus is going away or whether they are, still will fly that banner, but they always had a wonderful line of racks and rack parts, and all of that is now part of this chief rubric. And so there's a lot of stuff there, but yeah, I'm in the same boat. We generally, for most everything, have been using Lowell, so it doesn't really apply to me.
Yeah, Matt, would it make you more apt to buy a chief rack?
It's actually the first time I knew Chief was in the rack business when I saw this announcement. So you know what?
Well, that helped then.
Yeah, no, they're PR
there are marketing guys shaking their heads right now.
But hey, at least I paid attention to this announcement. We're a Mid-Atlantic shop, and it's worked pretty well for us. So, I mean, again, most of the stuff we buy today, it's integrated right into our furniture. Yeah. So we're more in the market for rack accessories than we actually are for racks. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely consider this if we end up with a design. Like I said, we were already, before this announcement, internally thinking about talking to some of our integrators about having them pre-rack stuff for us in their shops. So it would definitely be something, if we pursue that option, that we'd probably price out.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let me ask you guys a question. I have nothing against Kramer. Don't get me wrong. Nothing against Kramer. Don't send me emails or nasty letters. And what prompted this? The article actually came from Technologies for Worship, and it was an announcement that Kramer has speakers. That's awesome, great, good for Kramer, awesome, groovy. They may or may not be OEM'd. I'm going to say that I don't think that Kramer developed these speakers by themselves. And I said I don't think so, no liable here or slander, but it got me thinking about OEM stuff.
We don't think on any of this stuff.
No, we don't. We just speak.
There you go. We're safe.
And a lot of our OEM stuff, and if you don't know what OEM stands for original equipment manufacturer, because, one guy is going to make, let's say, a projector. And then he's going to ship it to somebody else who's going to slap their name on it and then market it to you. And I mentioned projector because actually a lot of the OEM stuff that we have on our campuses are projectors. Physics is one company. Sanyo was for a while. So you would have, a Sanyo, which if you do any kind of control programming, and that's how I know this, the same protocols for Sanyos also work for Ickeys, because one OEM's for another, and you're gonna get some of that cross pollination and stuff like that. Is OEM a problem for us? Should it be a problem for us? Should we be okay with one manufacturer making all the guts and just slapping somebody else's name on it? Matt, is it okay that stuff's OEM, or should we expect end-to-end, development, manufacturing, and service from the same person?
I think it depends. I think if they add value to the product, I remember years ago we bought some Christie projectors, which were actually Sanyo projectors with a Christie badge. But Christie added Ethernet control and a couple things which you couldn't get from Sanyo. So at that point, yeah, that's not necessarily a bad thing. On the speaker topic, I'm thinking of another major manufacturer, which we've actually shown a whole lot of love to on the show, who also decided to come out with their own speakers and slap a badge on them.
I didn't know AMX had their own speakers.
Yeah. And I evaluated some of them. And the first thing which surprised us all is this company is all about U.S. manufacturing.
No, don't tell me.
You open up the box and there's a big old made in China speaker on this. And that was just, it got worse from there. And sometimes I wonder, I understand everyone wants to get 100% of our business, but I don't know if you need to be in, the soup to nuts market, or partner with someone. If you don't make speakers, but you want to sell speakers, find someone to co-badge with, so at least you know you're buying their quality.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, the speakers I evaluated, I have no idea who was OEMing them. I mean, they could have been Foxconn for all I know. And it was just unfortunate because the manufacturer, which I thought was, when I do buy a tremendous amount of product from, this was just not comparable to anything else in their product line.
And see, that's unfortunate. And you just pointed out a whole lot that's wrong with that. From the fact that, they're a big, we're talking about Extron, they're a big, made in the USA guys, and you come across and there's speakers made in China. Greg, is it an issue from quality control to perception from the market, or is it no big deal because this helps keep some costs down?
Well, I don't think we've really seen an issue from the quality end of things. It's interesting you should mention that. A bunch of us here just took a tour of our brand new Extron Experience Center here in Cyprus, not too far from us, back a few weeks ago. And we had just finished up getting shown the, We Love Us Extron official marketing video about how wonderful they are and all of their stuff being made, showing it being made there in New Jersey and everything. And we're getting the tour here of the Experience Center where we're, getting to see and touch all the Extron stuff. And we come around the corner to this great big wall of speakers inset in the wall, in the ceiling, that they're demoing. And we're all sort of in unison. We turn to our guide and it's like, you guys make speakers too? And they're both sort of sheepishly, well, actually, no, they come from China. And so I think I'm sort of waiting for the AV World expose blowing the cover on how all AV equipment comes from the same one factory in China, because that's almost what I'm starting to suspect in some of the circles with all of these folks coming out with their own version of absolutely everything. And I think it can be a little bit of a liability, not to turn this into the Extron Bash show that it was last time, but I think that's one of the areas where Extron may have sort of be tripping themselves up a bit. Is they this last year or two, they really seem to be focusing on being absolutely everything for everybody. If you didn't use, speakers and mics and everything from A to Z in your system, they're sort of like, well, why aren't you using that from us? Yeah. And I'm wondering that's where they've sort of lost a bit of their cutting edge technology end of things. These coming from Kramer, I don't know. Yeah, not what I think of when I think of Kramer. And again, fine company, seems to make nice equipment. I have very little Kramer stuff here, but not for lack of effort from Paul, our wonderful local Kramer rep, who calls me regularly. But speakers, okay.
You have a Kramer rep?
Yeah.
Wow.
When you're in an important school, you get those.
That is true. You are UCLA. So, speaking of UCLA,
now there is a segue.
Now, this comes to us from the New York Times, so it's not like some backwater rag. UCLA apologizes for mistakenly congratulating 894 students on acceptance. Wow, dude. Now, just first of all, Greg did not personally hit the send button, so I'm not going to skewer you. But my question is...
Greg does actually know somebody who was involved with this.
Oh, man. Are they still employed?
And here I thought you brought me back for a second show because I came across so witty and intellectual in the first show.
That too.
Okay. Great. Don't burst my bubble.
No, that too. Yeah. No, that too.
But no, this was a financial aid email that went out to primarily admitted students, and completely separate from the financial aid information they were sending out. They happened to send out, or they happened to add this line at the bottom about congratulations on your admission to UCLA. The problem was they then sent that to 894 students on the wait list.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, and it was a can I say brain fart?
Sure.
Okay, well, that sounds like that's what it was, and it doesn't sound like there were any sort of serious repercussions, because it seems like it more confused a lot of people than anything else. And, confusing students is not a very difficult thing to do, trust us. No. What you did miss, however, full disclosure, was the UCLA screw up from 2 weeks previous, where we sent out, apparently, again, financial aid, but a different group of financial aid folks from the ones I share a van pool with every day, just to, full disclosure. Mm-hmm. A different group of financial aid folks sent out 7,000 duplicate financial aid checks right before the So wow. If you were expecting, $5,000 in your account, all of a sudden Saturday morning, have $10,000 in your account. And so they were working to retract and, get back all of those checks and, reverse them and stuff like that. Last I read, they were working with less than 50 students to resolve the accounting errors.
Wow.
But yeah, that was the big one. That it actually got a lot less press, but that was a great big chunk of money, and money is kind of a topic of regular discussion in many of our higher ed circles.
Yeah.
So that attracted a lot of attention. I don't know whether I don't know whether heads will roll, so to speak, but that one I would certainly be a lot less surprised.
Yeah. Wow, dude.
Although when that came out, the pithy line that was going around there when we sent out the duplicate checks was, this was right about the time of that the great big Mega Millions stuff going on there with the lottery, and the tagline a lot of people were using was UCLA, we are so awesome, we have our own lottery.
Oh, jeez. All right, guys. Real briefly, last and certainly not least, this is a press release. I don't like press releases, but it gets into a conversation.
And it's material.
Yeah. So BTX Technologies announced that the company has qualified as an Infocom International Saphire Certified Audio Visual Solutions Provider for the 6th year in a row. I like BTX, so this is not about BTX.
Great company.
Greg, we had a conversation at one of our technology managers council meetings a couple of years ago about this very thing, not about BTX, but about the Saphire, about the Certified Audio Visual Solutions Provider thing. And, they got Saphire. I think there's an Emerald. I couldn't tell you the different jewels involved in this. But do we need this? Is this fine, or is this just more confusing and we just need one thing?
Well, I guess being an audio-visual service user, it would mean more to me there being a, certified audio-visual service provider if I knew any other companies that were. But it is this sort of thing where, somebody will send it out in a press release and, well, that's the end of it. I mean, it sounds like a neat idea, but I mean, where do you publicize? I'm not sure where that is publicized. I'm not really sure exactly what it means. I even, looked briefly at the website, and I don't know. It's a little vague. But, BTX, like we said, it's a great company. They make a lot of neat stuff. If you don't get their catalog, I recommend it.
You should, yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. I don't know what this means. I'm generally a proponent of the industry certifications and the sort of stuff that Infocom does. Speaking as yet another person with a bunch of letters stuck behind his name. But yeah, I can't really speak to the effectiveness of this one. I'm sorry.
Matthew, does it make you want to run out and use the next integrator that has a Saphire?
Well, I think it speaks about a lot of commitment to the industry and willing to help further our industry. At one point, I think we talked about requiring certified service providers around the last round of this program when I think it was gold, silver, and bronze. Yep. And the challenge is, I think that Greg brought up is it's usually tied to how many CTSs or how many CTS I&Ds you have on staff. And I know they're trying to enhance the program a little bit. I think they're going to actually make some sort of performance reporting requirements or adherence to ANSI standards as being part of this upcoming. I think it's a good program. I think the program's been challenged a little because I don't know if Infocom publicizes it right, and it's because I think they're pushing it on the integrators to get it rather than informing us as end users where the value is. Yeah. I do like working with certified individuals, and again, coming from a IT background originally, generally, and actually I'd say with the CTS, especially how hard the test got after they went to the new methodology, there's a certain baseline of knowledge you're going to get when you talk to someone with a CTS or a CTSI or a CTSD. I know one of the things we started putting in our specs is we do so much DM product, we now require a DMC on staff with any integrator we work with. We've had too many bad experiences with that. So I think this is a good program. I would like to see it grow. I'd like to see Infocom try to, frankly, sell the value to us as the purchasers a little bit more on it. But right. I think anytime you're emphasizing education and certification in an industry, you're doing a good thing.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Agreed.
Yeah. Preaching to the choir.
Preach, brother, preach. All right, guys, that's the last story I have. Thank you so much for joining me, Matthew Silverman. He is the project manager, learning space design at George Mason University. Also with us has been Greg Brown, the media system engineer for classroom technology design and maintenance for UCLA. You need to get a shorter title there, Bubba.
Like I said, I wish I was paid by the word. Thank you, guys. Have enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. My name is Tim Albright. Check out this podcast and more at ravepubs.com/AVNation. ravepubs.com/AVNation. Thank you so much for joining us for EdTech.